What does it actually take to go from the Army Reserves to the C-suite in energy? Not the brochure version, the real one, where you change your MOS on short notice. Go to night school while managing subsea projects and keep saying yes to things you've never done before. Welcome to Project Vanguard, where veterans and mission-driven leaders share what it takes to build America's energy future. I'm your host, Kevin Doffing. Laura Gardner is the CTO of Nova Source Power Services. She leads technology for operations and maintenance of power plants. She grew up one of 11 kids, 7 of whom served in the military. She enlisted at 17 and went from postal operations to chemical warfare. And after moving to Houston, she spent years in oil and gas running complex projects before making the jump into renewable energy. Her whole career has been built on picking the next unfamiliar thing, saying yes, and learning fast. We talk about what oil and gas experience actually gives you in a younger industry like renewables, why so many companies are getting ahead of themselves on AI and digital tools, and what she tells veterans at career events who think their career transition is bigger than it actually is. Laura's advice comes down to something simple. You already know how to leave your comfort zone. You've done it your entire service. Stop overthinking it and go. Let's get into it. Laura, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thank you for having me.
So, Laura, what would you say you do these days? Because I feel like it's changed a little bit lately.
It has been changing. Good focus on technology and really focused on kind of learning a new challenge. We're bringing, I would say, renewables into big backpack that I have of different parts of my career.
Yeah, because when we met, I remember it was at that, was it CERAWeek? Yeah, it was CERAWeek because we were at the Petroleum Club.
Yep. Clean Tech Roundtable.
That's right. Right, the Clean Tech Leader Roundtable. But both of us having an oil and gas background, it's always like everybody just magnets finds each other in the room. Same as veterans. One of my friends was just saying, we always find each other.
Absolutely.
Right? And you start layering on these things. But what kind of initially brought you to that? Because you're with, can you say who you used to be with? Is that verboten?
Sure, why not?
Yeah, with TechnipFMC.
I was with TechnipFMC, yes.
So, what made you initially go to that dinner with Don James? Great lady. What made you want to initially go to that dinner?
I think there was an interest. I've always been in traditional oil and gas, always been interested in new things. What's driving our energy independence in America and how is that really changing the game? And as I've grown up, it's started to evolve. So there was an interest there. And I actually met Dawn when I was just kind of searching for new careers and things like that. And she started pulling me into a lot of the renewables things. So it was a lot of fun and a new industry to start to learn about.
Yeah, no, she's been fantastic. So I thought y'all went back further than that.
Not too much further, but it's been a while, maybe 2 years.
Yeah, I guess it has been. Okay. Well, so what was your initial impression when you came in and you start meeting different technology sets aside from oil and gas? Because you were doing the new technologies group with Technip.
All right. I was inside New Energies at that time. So that's what started it, was really trying to understand. I didn't know much in that space. So how could I start to learn about where can we play in that market? What is out there? What's even going on? A lot of my career is in, that software and technology portion of it. So what does it fit? What's already out there? That's what I was going for. Let me just learn. And I've always been told I soak everything up like a sponge. So go out there and learn and see what's going on. So that's what I was doing.
Yeah, because I remember I was advising, a Shell Ventures-backed methane detection company and was talking to some of your team on digital twins. How has things like digital twins and things like that kind of evolved as software really starts to get into the energy sector more and more and more?
It's a great question. I think there is a loose term of digital twin in the industry and across the board.
Yeah.
It's really important to truly understand what it is that you're trying to build, what needs to be a physics-based model versus what needs to be a digital model. And how can you use it, right? What's the end goal that you're trying to get? Everyone says, I want to have a digital twin of my plant, but it's why? And a lot of people cannot answer the question why.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do or should people want a digital twin?
I think there should be a focus, right? Trying to get the whole plant view is a big step. If you haven't done the baby steps first to get you to where you know all the individual parts work together and they're working correctly, then you can get to the big digital twin picture of your entire plan view. I just think the struggle is getting to the focus of it takes time to go make sure the data is right, make sure the operations are running properly, and then you tie all those pieces together to have that full view. But that takes time and patience, and a lot of, I would say, investments don't want to have the patience for that.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was in combat, we used to always say, as long as we're all working off the same map and we're all got the same comms channels so we know how to talk to each other and we have a desired end state, we'll figure out when everything goes wrong, which is usually as soon as you step off.
Yeah.
I mean, when I say that, like, what comes to mind for you in industry after the military?
I think I use a lot of military terms, which is quite funny, but I think it's so true how your day-to-day work now outside of the military really transitions into these same kind of teamwork, collaboration. But at the same time, when it comes to a digital twin, it's still like teamwork and collaboration. It's like this piece needs to go connect to that piece and they have to work together.
Yeah.
So whether it's people or technology, it's literally the same answer.
Yeah. One of the things that, I used to own this oil and gas supply company. We're outfitting riggers and roughnecks and things like that. And I remember when when OPEC kept pushing down prices, trying to push out the independents in the US, and everybody was just optimizing. It was like the first time that the oil patch was finally digitizing, because there were groups like Surge Ventures that were trying to like get things to go. And I remember the founder of that talking about, listen, I've been in the meetings with, super major CEOs, and they're like, listen, this meeting's cost me money because barrel prices at the time were like, 110, 120. It's like, anything I do that doesn't make another barrel is a waste of my time. But then once prices crashed, it's like, ooh, how do we optimize? How do we get a nickel out of every barrel produced? And I think that was, from my perspective, I'd love to see what you think because you're better and more informed on it. That was kind of the thing that was like, okay, now we need to digitize. We literally had dumb iron as a part of our industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then like 2014, 2015 was driving digitization to really start adopting. But I feel like it's really ramped in the last few years.
Right. We're old, so we can talk about the legacy, desktop computers that were really big. And you had to have baby steps to get to that point, right? You had this massive computer, but then you were able to play your Carmen Sandiego with black and green screen. And then you could go and you saw the evolution of that. And it's the same thing, right? Digital is the same thing in the industry where there's an evolution. You have to do the baby steps. You have to start with the old school way of working. And I think now in technology, we're seeing that, right? We're having to go fix a bunch of tech debt everywhere because we're building on legacy systems. And now technology is moving so fast that you have to go and figure out, okay, this was the old stuff. Now we've evolved. How do we change it? How do we remember what our old things were so that we don't go back to having these big, bulky desktop computers if we don't have to? I think it's just a change in really having that understanding that you have to evolve and you also have to maintain your technical debt as you're going forward, whether it's hardware or software.
So, I mean, you've left, legacy oil and gas. You're now in like solar, right, with NovaSource.
Right.
And I don't know if we said it. You're the CTO of NovaSource now.
Yes, CTO of NovaSource Power Services, right? And we do solar and battery storage.
Yes, there we go. So, I mean, a significantly younger industry. So, I mean, like, maybe I got it wrong and they had the Carmen Sandiegos and you're still updating that. Or is it like, well, we had flip phones and we're now trying to get to iPhones? What has that technology progress been like in a newer industry?
I think there is a lot to learn from the legacy oil and gas, milestones that have already come and gone, right? We don't need to go backwards and start from scratch. We know what worked and we definitely know what didn't work. Especially when it comes to me, I have a broad experience, right? That's coming across from legacy oil and gas, but also in, performing that mining transition and seeing how that kind of encroached is a similar step into now the renewable space where you don't have to go and start some of those things from scratch because there's a lot, I would say, that I've experienced over the past that has evolved and it can learn from that to make sure that we're building the newest technology as it stands today.
Now, I always find that there's perception difference with people who've come from oil and gas and now work in renewables versus people that have just always come up in renewables. One, that oil and gas isn't the enemy. And the complexity of what that all takes and how in some ways, renewables is just way more simplified. Like the O&M is a lot more simplified. Like the engineering, at least on like the operational side. Like I know one guy with NextEra, a buddy of mine, it was like, listen, man, it's a twig with 3 like blades on it and a base. That's wind over and over. He's like, you know what goes into, subsurface fracking? I kind of missed the really thorny, like we're going to do something in Gulf of America and we're going to like drill down in that 5,000 feet. We got to do this, but oh my God, now we're at 8,000 feet. We got to do something else.
Yeah, no, I get it. I've been trying to explain to all of my new team members, and I'm going into the entire organization of my team to be like, here's who I am. Here's an introduction about me. Here's some of my skill set. And I'm having to explain like, hey, I worked in like subsea drilling systems. And then I went into this and like subsea production systems. And then that's all like underwater by thousands and thousands of feet. And we made it work. Very complex systems. And granted, I did project management at the time. And it was all over the map, right? You had a problem here, a problem there, field service tech needed here, do this, do that. And it was a lot. And I think we have that same struggles now in the solar space and in battery storage. It just seems like, oh, well, it's on the ground. You could just like walk to it. It's not underwater. You don't have to like go like lose hundreds and thousands of dollars a day from stopping a drilling campaign. You can go over there and fix it with your own eyes and hands. So I think there's still definitely complexity that's going on, but how that kind of ties back to legacy oil and gas, super complex systems, I don't know if there's a match right now.
Yeah. And it's also like you've got this new technology that you want to simplify so it's easier to scale, easier to operate.
Right.
And so like when I was running O&M, I mean, we'd joke that, well, solar is really washing the windows and cutting the grass, right? It's veg maintenance. I mean, there's more than that into the inverters and the transformers and medium voltage and, high voltage. But I mean, it's significantly lower staffed. A coal plant is like 2,000 employees. A nat gas facility is like 100. And then like a solar farm's got 6 people out there for the same power production. It's just different.
Yeah, I think it allows for optimization, right? Especially these remote monitoring centers where you don't have to even have people on a farm is really, I would say, game-changing because you can do so much with the data that you're getting. Mm-hmm. Instead of spending resources, manning a solar farm, you can spend those resources building new technology, especially when it's such a lean organization and a lean industry. You could start to put those resources in places that can make the company more efficient and make the industry more efficient.
So have you seen like AI adoption been in between your last 2 roles? Or current and last role?
AI adoption is out there. I don't know if even I myself can keep up with the AI trends and how everything is changing. I do love continuing my education and trying to understand what's going on, but it's a struggle to keep up and it's ever evolving. The systems that have to connect to it is evolving. I think there is a lot of misunderstanding, though, when it comes to AI. Everyone wants to jump to, I want this really nice AI solution to automate everything I do. And they skip the people part, the process part, and they skip the technology part and jump straight to, I want this AI thing. It's really complicated to get someone to focus on, you need to go figure out your process.
Yeah.
And if it's a bad process, you should make that process more efficient. And then you need to figure out what data you're using in that process. And then you can go and create the AI on top of that. You want to create an agentic AI workflow. You want to use Gen AI. You want to go and create a digital twin using AI. You can do all of that, but you got to go spend the time with some of the boring stuff, which is fixing the people and educating them, fixing your processes, and then go and fix your technology.
Yeah, I've always heard it's like the pilot while you're on a flight coming on going like, hey, our instruments are out. We're not really sure which way we're going, but we were making amazing time.
Yeah.
It's like, well, wait, so we're efficient, but not effective.
I don't know. I don't think that I could ever hear what any pilot says. I hear like over the mic. I don't actually know what they're saying. But if they were telling me that, I would be like, yeah, you don't actually know where we're going.
Right. Yeah, freaking out. But like I see a lot of businesses, we've got the newest thing, but you're still not doing the thing I need you to do. So what's happening here?
Yeah, I think one thing I'm learning really quickly is around, you don't want to stifle innovation in organizations. Everyone wants to go say like, hey, I know Python coding. I can go and do this super fast. But if you're going and just doing random coding and random upgrades, like the tie back to the bigger picture of what's going on inside the company gets lost. And then you have like 20 different things going on and you don't actually know what the process is that the teams are following. I think that's becoming a little bit of a struggle because everyone wants to be innovative. Everyone wants to use AI and do something cool with it, but they're losing the tie that we are running a business and we need to make money. We can't just go have a bunch of random stuff going on and then put the company at risk because of that.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. So as you're thinking about like, hey, this is how technology needs to be implemented or designed, or what problem are we solving? Take me back to you looking at joining the military. Were you applying that depth of thought process there?
Absolutely not. So when I joined the military, I was 17. I come from a big family. I'm one of 11. There's 8 girls and 3 boys. And all I wanted to do was get out of that house as fast as I could. I kind of wanted to go to college, and I would say,
Did they notice when you were gone? Like, that seems like the right head count.
well, I don't know, because I was always working because I didn't want to be in the house. I was like, go to school, go to work, leave me alone. So the problem was my parents always knew where I was, and they would send the military recruiters to me. And I was working at like Leslie's Pool Supplies or something. These military recruiters would just show up at my job and be like, so, like, do you want to do this? And I'm like, you guys are ruthless. I'm working right now. It kind of just stuck with me. They started coming in. They were really, really like adamant that this is the way to go. If you don't know what you want to do, you need money, you need a plan. I mean, why not? I didn't really have a plan.
I mean, they're not wrong.
I mean, first of all, my parents weren't going to pay for my college, and I knew I wanted to go to college. So it was kind of like, hey, there's a win-win here. Let's go figure out my life. Give me time to mature because I was 17, right? I graduated when I was 17. I couldn't even go to the clubs once I graduated because I wasn't 18 yet. So I would say eye-opening to me that the opportunities were there, and maybe, and don't tell my parents, but maybe I appreciate the fact that they were sending the recruiters my way to go and think about this. So it definitely was not, oh my gosh, military is going to change my life. It was kind of like, hey, this is an excellent stepping stone for me to get my career off the ground.
Also, I can't drink or go to clubs, but I can go to war.
That's true. That is true.
So what did you end up doing? What did you pick? Why'd you pick it?
Okay, well, so I was in the Army Reserves. So I did a lot of reserves time, and I was originally going to Arizona State, and I was just going to the reserves camp there. And what was located in that general area was more like the Postal Service admin. So my initial role was a 71 Lima with, let's say, Fox 5, right? So all of the identification of the postal and the bombs and what was going on through the mail system. Maybe that's too much to share here, but that was what was going on.
That would never happen.
And so I was like, okay, whatever, I can do this. Have a 1 weekend a month. I'm still going to school, still being a college student, blah, blah, blah. And then it transitioned into, hey, we're going to get sent overseas. You guys need to like figure out your life. And I was dating someone, and I was like, well, we probably should move my shit back home to Houston because I'm not just going to leave my stuff here with someone I don't know. So moved back to Houston. I had to change my MOS. And I think that's probably one of the biggest messages that I have for military, right? Is like, it's okay, just take a risk. Guess what my MOS was? Then I moved into 74 Delta, which was a nuclear biological warfare role. And I had to go through a whole new training of trying to understand.
So you went from checking the mail to Army nuke?
Yeah. And it was like, well, what the hell? If you're going to train me, I'll figure it out. And then I went through, I would say those trainings required you to go through some pretty serious mental and physical, I would say monitoring some videos and going through the true labs.
Oh, wow.
It was intense. And I think, like I said, I didn't know what the hell I was signing up for, but I figured it out and I moved on. And then my role when I was in Houston was in the chemical operations unit. And it's actually still here in Houston. And I think, like I said, that change, that's what I finished out doing in the reserves. That change was really, I would say, eye-opening for me to be like, hey, you could just, if they're going to train you, you could figure it out. Back to what I said earlier was kind of like, you're a sponge, soak it up, and then go execute. That's kind of how it worked.
Okay. Wow. So when you were in, what was the craziest thing you had to do while you were in that job that you're allowed to talk about?
I don't know. This is interesting. We did a lot of fake scenario planning. So you had to like don your whole like chemical suit and clean your mask and like walk around in Houston heat wearing all of this. So it was, I would say, crazy, but I guess if you were using it in a real life scenario, you'd want to know how to use it all and how you go through all the steps to like clean up afterwards. And anyways, I would say that was the most intense was going through the process of learning this stuff, but also in the Houston heat where you have like so much shit wearing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't like walking outside in like a short sleeve and shorts. I mean, like it gets miserable here.
I mean, and then like just walking around with your chem mask around your waist, like everywhere you went. And you're like, do we need this right now? But at the end of the day, like if you're in a real life situation, you want to know like, hey, I have this safety net. It's right here. So you kind of learn to use it. But I could give you like a story before I started doing chemical stuff, which I think is an even more hilarious story.
Yeah. Hit me.
When I was in basic training and you go to get all your shots and stuff, right? The very, very beginning, right when you sign up, you go through, you get to basic. Well, we had to like line up in a basketball gym and they had people with vaccines standing all around the basketball gym and everyone just got in a line and like you got jabbed in one side of the arm and then you got jabbed in the other side of your arm. And then you came out with like this paper immunization record. And then they're like, oh, that's great. Everyone got their shots. We're going to go move some mattresses from the 10th floor up to the 15th floor. And it's like, my arms are like jello right now. I don't know if you've gotten one shot, but if you've gotten 4 shots on both arms, lifting old mattresses isn't exactly the most exciting thing to do. We were struggling and it was pretty strong people. Anyway, I tell that story all the time because I'm like, this is the crazy shit that you go through. Like, man, you still do it. You're like, okay, so someone told me to do it. Let me just go do it.
Yeah, let me stage these things and not what you're going to be doing as a project manager.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh. Well, so what made you end up deciding to get out?
I don't know, actually. Sometimes I'm still like, why didn't I just keep doing that? Maybe my life would have been a little bit easier, but maybe not. I think I just ready to transition. I had all my college done. Like I said, initial purpose for me was like, get school paid for, right? Get some time under your belt to mature. And I did that.
Where'd you go for college?
Oh, Arizona State. But then by that time
Oh, okay. So you finished up there.
Yeah. Well, no. I had moved back to Houston and I actually graduated from University of Houston downtown. So I did a bunch of night school, pretty much did all of my rest of my, I would say my last 2.5 years of schooling was at U of H downtown at night school.
Okay. Gotcha. Sorry.
Worked full-time as a project manager at the time with a lot of subsea drilling system projects that were going on around that time. Then would go to night school. So it was intense.
That is intense. I mean, I always find that project management's like one of the first pathways into energy for a lot of, I always think of like young officers, senior NCOs, but you're doing it even before you have your college degree.
Right.
What was your rank back then?
Well, I mean, I would say when I exited, I was staff sergeant. So I started at the bottom of the barrel. So, I mean, through the years, being able to get promoted, and then at some point, you're kind of like, okay, this is the same thing in, real life. You go through the same process. Go prove yourself. You don't actually have to go in front of like a big board for promotions, but it's the same idea. Prove yourself, work hard, be nice, move on with your life.
So when I got out, I'm coming off of active duty. I'm in the infantry. We're still at war. Like my unit's going to deploy to Afghanistan. You're only going to do one combat deployment doffing. I mean, like, it was a little bit of, do you not care about the people around you? There was a whole guilt trip. There was a serious guilt trip about abandoning my country. And a bunch of people were like, I don't know. So it was like this existential thought of getting out. But what was it like when you're in the reserves? It sounds more like, hey, I've already got a job. So it's like de-risked from that perspective.
Yeah, I mean, there was still a lot of pressure from, I would say, the recruiters to like, re-sign up. We have re-signing bonuses, this and that. And like, don't worry about it. You want to go have kids? Don't worry about it. You can still re-sign up, right? And I was like, guys, I kind of just think I'm done with this. I can see there is actually structure outside of the military somewhat.
Yeah.
Outside of the military. So maybe I don't need this. Like I said, in hindsight, I probably would have stayed in there and retired from the reserves because it really was helpful to me to have some structure, and you're protecting your country, you're supporting your country. It's super important, while also at the same time, you're able to work and have your family time and be able to do that stuff. It's a good balance.
No, I love that. And I mean, there's something I was reading, and I think 40% of the military is reserve and National Guard, and I didn't know that.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that either.
So it's like a huge piece of the serving force that have day jobs, or as this guy says, for the rest of us that have real jobs.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, remember I told you I come from a big family, and 7 out of the 11 of us went into the military, right? My older brother was Marines. I have a couple sisters that was Army, and then some of my family members were Air Force. And there was a balance there too, right? Some went full time because they didn't know what the hell to do with their life, and that was the way to go. Whereas the others went kind of reserves. Maybe same thought process was like, I'll get my school paid. A lot of us graduated, we were super young, so we didn't really know what to do with our life yet. But we knew we didn't want to stay in the house full of kids. So
Yeah.
I think, like I said, kind of works for everybody to get your feet grounded. And then you can decide like what makes the most sense for me in my career, in my life. And so the transition part, I think, is I've been to a lot of career events that are like military recruiting events. And I try to explain to them like, hey, this is literally the same thing as that. Just put your mindset into like, it's not that different. You just don't have someone yelling and screaming at you, but that's just boot camp when they're yelling and screaming at you. Move on to like your day-to-day job in the military is not people screaming and yelling at you. There's structure, there's commitment, there's collaboration, there's teamwork. It's not just throwing you out in the middle of a field anymore. Maybe it is. I would say my project management days, they did throw me in the middle of Morgan City, Louisiana. So kind of like throwing me into the middle of a field.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I did entrepreneurship after I got out. And I mean, it was very much like, I don't have a playbook for any of this. What do I do? And I'm just like talking to the air. Like there is no one that I can even ask that question of. I'm like, you just got to figure it out. As you fast forward today, how do you see like people transitioning successfully or challenged? What has been your experience around that?
I think even here at NovaSource, we actually have quite a bit of ex-military people that are running like our remote centers and running some of our operations out in the field. And I think it's important to realize you don't have to go directly into those types of roles, but those are the most relevant for you. So make it easy on yourself and, try to tie it back to what you were maybe doing in the military. Now, it's not going to be like my role where it was chemical operations every day, but it's very much tied to it. You're an electrical person in the military. There's so much electrical stuff out in the real world, right? It's like, how does that tie together? If you were doing something with computer science or computer engineering in the military, that directly translates right into what we're doing now, So we have quite a bit of ex-military people that have come in, and I love it, right? Because I am like, you guys are the perfect ones. Women win. Like it's the perfect scenario to just have that smooth situation where you can transition into something that's really familiar to you. And then you pick a company that you can grow with and have some development inside that company. And maybe it stretches you into different roles that are not tied to, where you started, but that's the stretch, right? That's all about career development.
Oh, yeah. No. And if anybody has an electrical technician background on this, reach out to me. Like I'm planning on buying, not immediately, but in the near future, an electrical services company because it's such a surge. There's such a shortage. I mean, like all the external factors cover up a lot of my mistakes, which are tantamount, just huge mistakes. But yeah, no, I'm super bullish on the electrical services market, electrification. I don't think oil and gas will ever go away, but I mean, you're just rapidly seeing, especially with AI data centers, like the electrification, the need for increased, transmission, it's just everything.
Yeah.
We're transitioning from petro states to electro states. And I just think that like that's a huge opportunity. As you've gone through this, I mean, you're now on our advisory board. Thank you so much.
Oh, yes. You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me to that.
So for everybody who doesn't know, the advisory board are made up of C-suite executives inside the industry that are military veterans. And we do these podcasts, we do them with our community leaders. But one of the things that you'll do that like a lot of our other guests don't do as an advisory board member is get to have not one-on-one, but like a one-on-many private roundtable off the record with our community leaders. So the community leaders are the folks that sign for a year. They're running our state chapters. They're the people we first push out. They're on our speakers bureau on our website. Them getting to hear your story and then getting to have this off the record, informal 101. We just see these really great dialogues happen.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate you making yourself available to that. Aside from just the transitioning service member, for our community leaders, they're kind of building this community, making it available, helping people come together that are in the industry and people that are interested in it access it. What do you think are some of the big things you want to give those servant leaders as you talk to them and someone will be reaching out to you and asking advice?
That's a great question. I think the biggest thing is really just reflecting on my own past experience, right? We talked about it earlier, like take risk, right? You can go to a new city, go to a new role, pick a new challenge. It doesn't matter what it is, right? And I've done that all of my career. And I think from a transitioning person that's coming from the military, it's kind of like you got to do that, right? Just take a risk. Go pick something, right? Pick an industry,
Right.
go out there and just take a risk, right? They're going to say, like, you're going to move from this site to that site. Well, go do it, right? Take that risk on yourself. And I think the most rewarding thing that's been in my entire career journey has been taking a risk on myself and be like, I don't actually know what's going on in Doha, but let's go, right? Let's go figure it out. And if you're up for that and you're open for challenges, I think taking risk on yourself is the most important, right? And it's so rewarding.
Why do you think people don't do that?
Also a good question. I think there's maybe hesitation. It's kind of like, quote Dave Ramsey, when he's like, there's never a good time to go buy a house, or there's never a good time to go have kids. It's kind of like, you got to just decide what is the right time for you. And I think people don't know how to do that. They maybe have been given everything and they don't know how to make a decision, or they know how to make a decision, but they're worried about how it's going to impact other people in their life, right? I mean, I come from a big family and it's kind of like, well, sorry guys, I'm going to move all the way across the world. See you later. And we're like, whoa, now we have like big family events and you're not there. I'm like, oh, too bad. I'll be back. You know? So I think people just are worried about maybe leaving that comfort zone.
Yeah.
And once you leave that comfort zone one time, you kind of get it. And then it's like super easy to just keep jumping around. And I think when it comes back to like that military mindset, many, many people in the military are moving from site to site, base to base, country to country, job to job.
Mm-hmm.
They already know how to do it. They already know how to leave their comfort zone.
Yeah. I mean, I think a big piece of that too is also like when you're in the military, there's a structure. You know that you do these things, you will get promoted to this, right? It may not shake out in the details, but operationally, this time in service, these schools, you now qualify to make E5, E6, E7, or this job scope. And in the civilian world, it's like, sure, maybe.
Yeah.
Do you think you could do this? And then you see someone who's like, in your mind, unqualified and getting promoted ahead of you. You're like, what just happened?
Yeah. I could see it. I would say also being a female in the industry, it's always been a little bit of my like hesitation is like, oh, she only got promoted because she's a woman, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, I'm busting my ass. Like sometimes that's what's burning in the back of my mind. People think that, but I'm like, once they get to know me and they get to realize I got my shit together, then I think they are like, oh, actually, she probably did deserve this. But you're right. You don't know. There are people that are getting jobs that definitely don't deserve the job. And I kind of tie it, and maybe I shouldn't say it, but I kind of tie it to those that used to be like E7s, E8s in the military and then wouldn't take their PT test. I'm like, how'd you get here? Like, you didn't even take your PT test. That's part of being in the military is being physically fit, right?
Yeah. Leading by example.
But how do you get to bypass that credit? Go freaking run a lap. And I always laughed about it. Like, you didn't do your PT test, but here you are being the leader. And you're exactly right. Lead by example.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's like box one on the leadership matrix is like, okay, can I do the thing that I'm asking other people to do? No.
Exactly.
Well, that's the new standard.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's happening, right? And you're kind of like, well, how did they get promoted? Whatever, move on. I think the biggest thing is go prove yourself, right? And those that know what's going on and those that know that you're working hard see that and they communicate on your behalf. So you don't have to be the one communicating about yourself.
That makes sense. So, one of the reasons we started this as I think to like what you're taking a risk on yourself, but also just knowing the industry. When I was coming in, listening to podcasts like The Energy Gang, when that was still Stephen Lacey and Jigger Shaw and Catherine Hamilton, I would listen to those episodes over and over and just to get familiar with the jargon and how people talked about it and have better context. And one of our members was telling me last week, he's like, man, I listened to this in the car. And I was like, that's frightening. I mean, I guess we've been doing this for a year. So like, I hope people are listening, that they're listening to these conversations, but I'm hoping hearing other service members or former service members talk about the industry makes it more understandable, more accessible. So, for that audience, what's your advice on getting into the energy industry?
I think just do it, right? Find the role that you like. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. So that's, I would say, the biggest issue is, okay, well, I mean, you got to challenge yourself. I've always said, go challenge. Even if you don't know what's going on, go figure out that challenge. And I would say that's my recommendation, right? Challenge yourself and truly understand this industry is all businesses operate, right? All businesses are there to make money. They want to be efficient. They want hard workers. If you can just take that, moving from industry to industry, in my mind, it kind of doesn't matter because back to my career, right? And back to my military, I went from 71 Lima to 74 Delta. Doesn't matter, right? The structure was still there. And I would say the easiest part of it is just the core is there. The values are all the same.
Yeah. Well, and also I hope that what we built with Project Vanguard and being able to join, get in our Slack community and network with a few hundred veterans that are already in the industry. So if it's, hey, I'm thinking about project management, go talk to project managers. Hey, I'm thinking about getting into site management, go talk to site managers. There's so many people that want to help other vets understand and get in. And they'll either like, this is not what you think it is.
Yeah.
Asset management is like managing a site and it's facility operations and it's O&M. It's not financial asset management. Sorry, man, you're in the wrong like ballpark, but you should talk to so-and-so over here. They can square you away. Like I'm hoping that community helps.
I think networking and talking to people in the industry to learn more about it and like where do I fit is helpful. I mean, I didn't do it. I started these clean tech roundtable events and getting into some of those events because of Dawn. Then you, and then I started going to RE Plus and it was kind of like, oh, okay, there's a lot going on here. But this is like kind of the same as what I've been doing in my legacy oil and gas and legacy in the mining space. It's all the same at the end of the day, right? Like I said, it goes back to those core values of most of the companies are almost exactly the same. And as long as you're working hard, the industry doesn't matter.
Yeah. That's one of our missions to like depoliticize these technologies. They're just technologies. Like everything has intermittency and risk, right? Like some have really wild commodity volatility and risk. As of the time of this, there's this little closure around a waterway over in the Middle East that's affecting a lot of things. And nobody had that in their bingo card at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I don't think we had a lot of things on our bingo card. Probably would have been better starting off with a blank one, filling them in as we go. The free space all over.
It's been a busy year. But on the transitioning service member, one thing, I don't think we've talked about this. It just came up in last week, but we're going to do like a little podcast series where we take 5 or 6 transitioning service members. So whether they're like year out from leaving the military or finishing up 4-year undergrad on their GI Bill or their MBA or whatever, or they're in a training program to go into like some kind of skilled trade as like a solar tech or something like that. We're going to try and profile them for a year just to see like, what is that experience like? One guy reached out, I was like, I'm 2 years out. I'm like, I actually love that you're deep diving an industry way ahead of time so that when you step out,
you're ready.
You're good. And, just reduce a lot of the risk along the way.
Yeah, I think that's the right way to go, right? Know about it in advance. It's like, piss poor planning leads to piss poor results. So let's go ahead and plan early.
Yep. Said every project manager.
Yeah. Sorry, still have a project manager mindset.
No, I mean, I think that the military teaches you to be a project manager because it's all about operational excellence. And that's why vets maps so well the energy industry because it's so much about operational excellence, safety, doing things right the first time.
Yep.
And I think the risk of rework sometimes isn't a risk you can take. You got to get it right the first time.
Absolutely.
It's not software where it's like, code wasn't right.
Bug fix. Exactly.
It was in sandbox anyway.
No, it's true. I mean, I have probably, I would say many people would say an extreme bias towards execution and operational excellence. And I think that the military portion of that is what directly contributed to that is because that once I got out, I was kind of like, no, we're not doing it that way. That's completely inefficient. Let's go do it this way. Let's organize it so that it's a clean, smooth operating machine. And it's stuck with me forever. So,
yeah, no, that's right. So, Laura, I really appreciate you being here. I wanted to go through a little rapid fire question set.
Okay.
So, our tagline is energy security is national security. But what does energy security mean to you?
For me, energy security is really about the U.S., right? The U.S. being able to protect itself, being able to be stable on its own. I think we have to be able to defend ourselves if and when it ever comes to that.
No, I like that. And what do you think is the biggest bottleneck in veterans coming into the energy industry right now?
I think the biggest thing is probably just hearsay, maybe mindset shift, different opinions about, renewables this or oil and gas that. I think energy's energy. And that's kind of what the mindset should be. And maybe it's just not like that just yet.
Oh, yeah. All the above.
Exactly.
And why do you think people should join Project Vanguard?
I think it's the camaraderie, right? You're used to it. You've got it inside the military, and continue that camaraderie even with those that are out in a new industry. Camaraderie is the word.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, so if you're ever wondering how to get involved, how to learn about the energy industry, you can just go to projectvanguard.com. And once you become a member or volunteer or even apply for our community leader program, you'll get an invite to our private Slack community, and that'll just open up hundreds of veterans in the industry that are ready and looking to help you get plugged in. So check that out. Check out our events. We have a lot of things coming up in the coming months, from industry conferences like Laura's talking about with RE+. We're at all their regionals, American Clean Power, and then our state and local chapters just have random quarterly happy hours to just get everybody plugged in. So Laura, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning into the Project Vanguard podcast. If this episode sparked something for you, share it with someone who's ready to think differently, whether it's about an all-the-above energy approach, how energy security is national security, or the veteran workforce in our industry. If you believe what we're building, a quick review goes a long way. You can do that wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, keep up the fire.